Hello and welcome back to the WCS European Challenger Playoffs. We're here joining into the next series. My name is Fear Dragon. I am joined here by Cats, looking spiffy as ever. And
thank you.
We got a Protoss versus Terran coming up next. How you feeling about this one?
It should be pretty good. I talked to Harstem a little bit. This is going to be Harstem versus HeroMarine, for those of you not aware. And I talked to Harstem a little bit. He feels like he's well prepared for this. He feels like there's a lot of material out from HeroMarine in recent history. We were talking before the game, you were mentioning his series against Trap in GSL versus the World. He also played some PvT a couple of weeks ago in Challenger, I believe. So Harstem has had a lot to study from, and he looked really strong in his group. So
yeah. Harstem being able to come out 4-0 in his group, I mean, not really even dropping any maps or anything, is definitely going to be looking to be in good form. HeroMarine, I think, has a bit more of that name recognition these days as being one of those top players. So traditionally, if you just said, oh, look at the two names, look at their clout these days, HeroMarine kind of has it. But like you said, it's just the fact that Harstem seems to be playing really well, and HeroMarine showing a lot of his gameplay. He's been traveling. He just probably got back from GSL versus the World. I talked to HeroMarine a little bit, and he said feels like he's in better form than he was at GSL versus the World. Okay. But we're going to have to wait and see if that actually is the truth.
Yeah, that's very interesting indeed. So both players seem to be confident heading into this. Now, Harstem is a player that I think thrives on streaks, where he kind of just like, you know, goes off and destroys everyone, and then
that's why it's the year of Harstem, not the week of Harstem.
It should be the week of Harstem, or like the month of Harstem.
The month of Harstem month.
Yeah, we'll see.
What month would be Harstem month?
This month.
This month? Okay, so it's just like all of August.
August. Is there a month? Let's opportunity for a pun here, but I don't see it. So maybe you would. Is there a month with lips of some sort?
You know what? We're not gonna try and make too much of this a har pun joke, but instead we're gonna jump in and introduce our first player, whose name begins with a har. So he's quite a funny guy. It's the red Protoss player, Harstem.
And on the top left-hand side, it is HeroMarine. Now, HeroMarine is also a very, I don't know if to call him an emotional player, but he is a tilty player for sure.
Yes.
So we'll see. I think that if Harstem can get some momentum going his way, like win the first or second game of the series, that'll be really, really good for him. So I expect, if Harstem is able to take one of those games, I think this could be his series.
I'm totally with you there. And I think that also, it's one of those funny things that you notice with StarCraft players where sometimes confidence, and I mean, you always hear it talked about, right, where confidence can be good, but there are oftentimes also situations where if you are confident moving into things and things just start not going well, it's almost like that confidence ends up backfiring, right?
It certainly can, yes.
So I know HeroMarine was talking about, he actually said he feels like he has a 70% chance against Harstem, which is it's really high for StarCraft.
Yeah, very, very high. And Harstem also was feeling confident against HeroMarine in particular. So, I mean, he didn't give me a percentage-based confidence, but I think that he believes that he should be able to win this, or that he will. Yeah. So this should be a very interesting series. Fun fact, I played HeroMarine like 2 days ago, proxy hatched him. I think I had a lead, but I lost anyway, got destroyed because, you know, he just showed up with a lot more stuff than I thought he could show up with, and I died. But then my stream chat, they told me that he was raging, and if he played against me again, that he would just leave right away. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of mentality that HeroMarine, I think, subscribes to, where if something bothers him enough, he can just crumble. And I think Harstem is the kind of player that can be very bothersome, he will have studied HeroMarines, and I think he could exploit his weaknesses.
Harstem is the kind of player that you'll look at it and you're like, this is almost standard, but it's got the Harstem twist on it, right? So I think that's exactly what you're saying. That kind of extra time and all of those extra games he's been able to witness that HeroMarine has played of TvP lately. Harstem is the player who will come up with the right little tweaks to try and adjust to HeroMarine.
Yeah, or even like you're saying, even if he plays kind of standard, he will still pick the right builds for his opponent. Now, Lambo, if he's watching, he was like, yeah, Harstem is the player that picks builds like no one else does, you know? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying Harstem is definitely very good at it, and he definitely does his studying here.
Well, so far we do have a Robo started up there for Harstem. He's trying to deny that Reaper Scout, has that Stalker out, has the Adept out, is going to be able to shade onto the Adept. I think he's going to start regenerating some hit points, so we'll be able to survive a single attack from that Adept. I think it will barely. It's going to be able to get out of there alive, but still no scouting information for HeroMarine.
Yes, indeed. An observer moving out onto the map now from Harstem, and he's making multiple of those, perhaps expecting the Widowmine. So he is, like we were saying, well prepared here.
Yeah, the multiple observers is definitely gonna give him some really good heads up of any drops that come in, or if there is that Widowmine drop. But we do see a robotic space started up behind this. Probably gonna be moving to those Colossus, I imagine.
Most likely. It is very early, but I'm not too familiar with the matchup. Do you think he'll just start producing Colossus right away, or is there any chances that we see like a Disruptor drop opening or something?
I think so. The big thing that I noticed is if you go for the Disruptor drop, you would have already started the Warp Prism, I think, or right around the time the Robotic Space gets started down.
Right.
But because he's gone for not only 2 observers beforehand, which means like you don't really have a lot of firepower to survive if there was like an attack. But like the 3rd observer, I'm like, you know, this is probably Colossus.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So we should start seeing Colossus production as that next building finishes, and it does. Forge being added as well.
I do also want to, for HeroMarine, you were talking about this, the Widowmine drop. It is going to be with that Widowmine drop, and you're talking about how Harstem is oftentimes pretty good at picking out those builds. Well, it does seem like getting all those observers is probably going to pay off a little bit better, as he should have an easy time seeing this drop coming in. He has the vision. Is he going to be in position? And there are the Stalkers. Yes, he is. Almost.
Yeah, almost in position. Might be able to kill one of the Widow. Oh, he's not moving the probes. Gotta be really careful there.
Okay.
Very nice
sentry.
Firing.
Yeah, the Gateway Robo Wall kind of worked a little bit against him because the Stalkers came in to ambush the Medevac, and the Medevac just was like, okay, well, I can fly over this and you can't, so guess I get in there safely.
Yeah, absolutely. So Harstem could have maybe repositioned a little bit earlier. Maybe he could have had the observer out a little bit further out so that he has a little bit more of a heads up. But absolutely, his wall does end up biting him, and there's the first Colossus.
Yeah, so the big thing there is that, yes, 3 workers going down is not that much, but losing the sentry can be really annoying for Harstem because he has the observers. We talked about how many observers he has, but HeroMarine is definitely one of those top-notch players who can oftentimes notice the observers. He'll look and scan for them. He actually just scans and picks off one of them right there. Yeah. So that means that you don't have the sentry anymore. You don't have the hallucination energy. You have to rely on observers to scout or adepts, and it's going to be more costly.
Yeah, most definitely. Now HeroMarine will continue to drop in spite of Harstem's awareness, but he has a very sizable force right now, and I think he's looking to push the issue on 2 fronts. This is not going to be easy to hold for Harstem.
Yeah, Harstem sees a lot of the army moving to the center. Did the observers spot out the Medevacs loaded?
No, he loaded them right after sniping them.
Oh, and he has another observer on the south side that barely misses the Medevac. So this observer will scout them. And this is, again, that big advantage that Harstem can get through those observers, but he needs to have units in position. He's starting to reposition, but I'm not sure he's going to get into the main in time.
Yeah, I mean, lucky for him, he does see both armies and the potential size of them, so he should be able to split his army as well as he possibly can, but I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. I'm not sure that he has enough. He did drop a lot of tech, and yeah,
there's so many Marauders.
Artosis Pylon is going to make it even harder.
Yeah, he's going to end up losing one of the Colossus over here. We're seeing Stalkers warped in at the same time. The attack at the 3rd base is still continuing on. Now, that one is being held a lot better thanks to the Colossus and some good force fields. But still, at the same time, the drop is happening in the natural. You know, he hasn't actually killed too many probes here. Despite the fact that so many probes have been pulled, I don't actually think that 2 workers went down.
Yeah, not much went down. The probe advantage lies heavily on Harstem's favor. I should say not heavily, just 14 workers ahead right now. HeroMarine is now situating his 3rd. So, yeah, kind of evening things out here as far as the income graph is concerned.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, but it looks like it was mostly Stalkers and I guess the Colossus that went down there. And
very nice force fields.
It doesn't have a whole lot of Zealots at the front, so the Stalkers end up taking the brunt of the forces. But yeah, that almost managing to snipe off one of those Medevacs, but the Marauders keep him back. Ooh, nice snipe there. 10 workers, not bad.
That's
not bad.
pretty good. That is pretty good. In spite of the cannon there too, you place a cannon, you feel a lot safer against those. So you feel like you can leave less units there. But Big Gabe still punishing.
Yeah, still finding those opportunities. Now, it is also worth noting that Gabe has started up +2 weapons. Doesn't have an armor upgrade on the way. In fact, I think he does just have 1 engineering base. So he's getting those single upgrades at a time, kind of similar to how Harstem has been getting them. Harstem is falling a little bit further behind in those.
Yeah, I do like that Big Gabe has been producing mostly the attack upgrade as there's Colossus in play. So those are gonna, not care as much about armor. The higher the damage output, the less armor matters. So he's being very consistent here with that. We'll see if he's able to capitalize. Only 2 medevacs though, and this is, oh, there's the next 2.
Yep. Yeah, he has been using a lot of those medevacs for that drop harassment. Every single time you lose one of them, it's painful. Oh my god, Observer speed! Somewhere out there, Juggernaut Jason is just making vroom, vroom sounds.
Yeah, I mean, the scan was a little bit preemptive if he had seen the Observer. I'm not sure if he was just scouting or scanning because he thought, there must be an Observer around here. But he could have definitely moved further into position before scanning.
Yeah, I always wonder sometimes about like how Terran player, how they actually end up doing that. If it's like you just see it, you scan and you attack move, and then you go look somewhere else, double check that you actually got the Observer later on or something.
Yeah, I mean, the Observer dies pretty fast, so you can usually just like stare at it dying.
Yeah. Okay, well, we do have a nice little Zealot to run by. He's actually going to be able to scout out that 4th base and delay it a little bit. But 4 Colossus moving on to a 5th Colossus. But the High Templar transition is starting to come out over here. You usually don't want to go beyond like 5 or even 6 Colossus starts getting pretty heavy on Colossus.
Yeah, a lot of that is going to be because of the space and the overkill potential, right? So this is kind of a wide open map. Actually, it's a pretty choky map at most entrances right now. So yeah, you definitely don't want to make too many Colossus. There's a lot of Vikings in play as well.
Yeah, and especially if you get over all those cliff faces. Now, I do want to note there is a upgrade in the production tab you might not recognize. This is the new Ghost upgrade of the most recent patch, because we are on the most recent patch now. That increases the radius of EMP by 0.5. Doesn't sound like a lot. It does actually have a pretty significant impact, though.
Yeah, radius is a big thing to have because, it's a radius. It's not just extra range.
It adds to both sides.
Indeed, to all sides.
All sides, actually, yeah. So, in the meanwhile, until that upgrade finishes up, these Ghosts are still going to have some nice EMP potential on Stalkers as well as any of those High Templars, but the High Templars don't have Storm just yet.
Yeah, very nice job by Harstem trying to find this openings. He did cancel the other CC and
finds one.
Very nice harassment there.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing over here. It does seem like HeroMarine noticed. He pulled his SCVs around a little bit, but still ends up losing 5 or 6 workers over here. Not going to really lose a bunker. They're just 3 Zealots, but he's scanning ahead. He's looking for opportunities to poke forward. He really wants to get some damage on because, like you said, his 4th command center did get pretty heavily delayed.
Yes, indeed. 5 SCVs went down in that.
Ooh, he might actually... He might be able to cut off the 4th Nexus from the army.
It looks like it. The Vikings in very good position here on that unpathable terrain. So it's going to be very difficult to blink under them or punish them. And that pushes the army of Harstem to where it can't do anything.
Well, Harstem is continuing with these Zealot run-bys. Now he's trying to mix it in with a Warp Prism, but the Warp Prism is getting focus fire down by the Marines. And he does manage to get the Warp Prism out of range of those. He goes for some more Zealots, takes out the bunker. Now the SCVs have to retreat. Here is the big fight, forced out, massive EMP radius over there. The Colossus are getting annihilated by the Vikings. Is there enough Protoss on the ground?
Yeah, it seems like not. So Harstem is there. What he was doing was choosing to ignore the Vikings so that he could chase onto the army. But without force fields or anything like that, the HeroMarine just pushes or pulls back as far as possible so that the Vikings can do as much damage to the Colossus before they reach the army. That was the right play, identifying that Harstem wanted the engagement. I would have much rather seen Harstem maybe focus fire on those Vikings. If you don't have a way to stop the army from running away, then it's just gonna run away. And then, if you're not shooting the Vikings, they're gonna shoot your Colossus down.
Yeah, a little tough there for Harstem because he lost that 4th base. It really, really sets him a lot further behind. HeroMarine, on the other hand, is not only finish up another command center that just had to be built a little bit further into his own base, but he's starting up a planetary fortress now, so it's going to be a lot safer against those Zealot run-bys. He's got Liberators being added on, and Harstem it's really the big thing here is that he does now have Storm Research, and I think he's going to start rebuilding that energy for High Templars.
Yeah, HeroMarine about to finish 3-2, so an unusual sight as he's going to be ahead in upgrades of the Protoss by 1, and this might be something that he looks to exploit.
Yeah, Harstem still only just starting up 3-3 now, is going to definitely be behind on those upgrades for a little bit. We'll see if HeroMarine is going to be able to make this attack hit at the right time and force that engagement. High Templars are trailing on the back end of things, and the Ghosts are on the front end, so they go for EMPs, but they don't hit the High Templars. They hit a lot of the army, though.
Yeah, and that's the power of those EMPs. It's just, you know, you're removing so much HP from the entire army that it's very difficult for the Protoss player to engage. It's kind of like a Dorito cannon, right? Like he feels like he needs to maybe recharge some of those shields, especially being behind an army, a good 20 supply.
Okay, High Templars starting to come forward with some of the storms. The Colossus manages to survive, only really losing most of its shields there. But this is such a tough spot right now for Harstem. Even with these nice little Zealot run-by attempts, Liberator's covering things, and Harstem desperately needs a 4th base right now. He needs to push this back.
Yeah, that was very nice of him to poke and kill that Liberator, but again, he's trailing now 40 army supply, and that is a difficult position to be in. I'm surprised that HeroMarine is not pushing the issue, but I guess he's content with just the economy.
Yeah, loses a lot of army supply right there, trying to split up his army a bit, but that does actually bring supply counts only about 15-20 supply away. Now, this is going to hurt Harstem because he's trying to establish that 4th base. If HeroMarine can just push this army back, he kills the 4th, and then Harstem is back down to 3 bases again.
Yeah, and that's kind of the good thing. Like, we see that army go down, but at the same time, HeroMarine has leverage on this side where he's saying, if your army is here, sure, you kill my little army, but I get to deny the only other potential base that you could have. So it'll end up paying off for him, and now Harstem feels hard-pressed to engage, and this might be the last engagement if HeroMarine can clear it.
HeroMarine doing a fantastic job this game of just starving Harstem out, never letting him establish that 4th base, and continuing to poke and prod constantly, and so Harstem never really had that breathing room. So now, like you said, he's forced into that kind of situation that he feels like he has to do something. He has to go attack. He finishes up his 3-3 upgrades. He has no signs of actually, well, maybe he's going to try and retake a 4th at this point because he feels like he has to do something, but I don't even know if he can afford it right now. I feel like just going for the all-in at this point is maybe better. Yeah,
I love this move by HeroMarine. He recognizes that Harstem is well behind in economy, so he's leveraging his own economy. He's saying the longer this game goes, the better. I don't have to defend at this base. There's no use in it. And, you know, he's just going to pull back and wait until he has considerably more than Harstem. Harstem still needs to make something happen here.
So here's one thing that I do like about Harstem's situation right now, Cats, is that all of the Ghosts are dead, and there are no more Ghosts being produced. Yeah. So those High Templars, yeah, there's actually not that many of it's what, 6 Vikings, yeah, 5 Vikings, 6 Vikings, 2 more are going to be popping soon. There is an opportunity here for Harstem to just steamroll the army, and if you can do that and then get on top of production or some of these bases, that's how Harstem makes this work.
Absolutely, yeah, he has to get on top of production because the bases are not going to be enough of a threat, and he does not want to apply pressure onto a planetary fortress and fight uphill there. So he really needs to siege this to where HeroMarine feels the need to engage Harstem.
Yeah, I'm actually really impressed. Harstem is showing a lot of patience here in a situation I think a lot of people would feel the time pressure of, I did never establish a 4th base. The longer this game goes on, harder it's going to get, the more army is going to have. But Harstem is really, really making sure he makes the most of this army.
Yeah, I would almost like to see sentries just to block off like 2 force fields on the left side, seeing as there's so much army there would be very powerful for Harstem. But I mean, it's a difficult decision to make with how little he has right now.
Yeah, some decent storms going off, and the Colossus are doing a nice job staying alive with the Warp Prism. Is it actually enough, though? It seems like it's going to get steamrolled regardless. HeroMarine, he's starting to run a little bit drier on units, but as the Archons and the Stalkers start getting cleaned up, the Colossus goes down. It does seem like HeroMarine holds and now sits up about 30 supply.
Yeah, this is almost unrecoverable for Harstem. He's a fighter. He will drop a 4th base behind this, but that's not going to be enough. And repositioning his 4th base is HeroMarine, so he will continue to have that economic lead. Difficult game from here.
Yeah, do you feel like there's any kind of harassment or something that you would want to see Harstem do here to just pull back a little bit more? Because it seemed like he was almost starting to make it work there.
Yeah, I think he might have actually been better off just pushing the issue earlier. We talked about patience, and yes, it was nice. He did get some pickoffs, But I mean, HeroMarine was producing more than him.
Yeah.
So so HeroMarine was happy with Harstem not attacking and continuing to warp in those units, I think. So that's what I would have liked to see. At this point, what I like to see anything in production would be a nice start. So two Zealots are not going to cut it. I would like to see something like Disruptors, just because they have, you know, the potential to kill a lot.
Maybe you snipe off all the ghosts before they get their EMP off or something.
Yeah, like something, you know, a Hail Mary is what he needs.
Yeah, he gets one of his High Templars, immediately EMP. The second Storm does end up whiffing. I think he maybe only has one, at most 2 Storms left over. And those medevacs still alive, healing up that army of HeroMarine. HeroMarine is not going to be abated anytime soon.
Yeah, and look at him. He's spreading his army well, so he's not taking any risks. Was there the perfect Disruptor shot, it wouldn't be perfect enough. So Harstem having to pull the probes now.
Yeah, and when a Protoss player has to pull the probes and they're getting EMP'd, you know that things are looking pretty dire. HeroMarine playing a hell of a game number 1, manages to take it. Goes up 1-0.
Yeah, very well done indeed. Keeping ahead in upgrades the entire time, just poking everywhere. Harstem was well prepared. He had the observers. He saw the Widow Mines coming. Still, they did a lot of damage, especially the second time around. Makes a cannon. Still, they do a lot of damage. So bleeding a little bit more than he was planning to, right? Like that's a lot of investment already going into, hey, like I'm ready for you. And then it's like, well.
Yeah, that part was definitely unfortunate. And the Zealot run-bys, it does look good because he gets a lot of these SCV kills here and there. But how many Zealots he actually invested into all that? We even saw, like, if you imagine there were 8 or so more Zealots in that main army fight, that maybe does actually start help out a little bit with keeping some of the Stalkers alive, so then the Stalkers are taking out more of the Vikings like you were talking about. So maybe some of the Colossus stale, like these little things do start to add up when you're trying to go for these harassment things. Yeah. I'm not saying that I don't like to see more of that Zealot harassment and everything, but it's just worth noting he did invest a lot into it, and I don't know that he fully got the entire value he was hoping for there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time the gas units are going to be the main anchor, and Zealots are somewhat disposable, like like Ling Rambais. I think he did good, and he did good at identifying how many Zealots he should send. I loved, for example, when he sent 8 to kill the bunker, right?
Yes.
And he would like have to... he stalled a lot of HeroMarine. He made him pull back. So I really like the Zealot Rambais. I think that was one of the strongest points of his game here. What I would have liked to see is the Colossus kind of pull back against the Vikings and have the Stalkers pick off Vikings or be ready to force field or something, because the problem was the big fight where the Colossus are just running forward, not hitting anything, because HeroMarine is just stimming and running back while the Vikings do damage and nothing's hitting the Vikings in spite of Harstem having Stalkers. So I think that was his major flaw in this game.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The Colossus having a hard time staying alive in that first fight was really, really painful. But we're moving into game number 2. This is still a best of 5, so plenty of opportunities for good old Harstem to come back in this one. Yes, and our next map is going to be Cyber Forest.
Do you like Cyber Forests?
You know, I'm kind of like hot and cold about this one, because I like this map when I'm cannon rushing. I know all those cannon rush locations pretty well in this one, but for just like normal macro games, I feel like if you're not a player that just really heavily gets involved with like War Prism harassment or something as a Protoss, or if you're a Terran player that isn't really drop heavy or something, this map, when your opponent starts doing it to you, I just feel like it's so easy to get caught out of position on this map.
All right. So are you feeling HeroMarine then again, or?
You know, I think normally if I say like, you know, you think of drop harassment and stuff, you think of the Terran player. Yeah. But Harstem has been pretty active without War Prism, I would say, with the Zealot run-bys as well. I do think that this is one of those maps where I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it for PvT, even though I think it's fallen out of favor a bit more, but there are those Marine tank pushes. Cyber Forest was like the poster child map for those siege tank Marine pushes, where you set up outside of that Protoss player's natural expansion on the low ground. You start setting up the bunkers and walling them in. You kill off their third if they went for it, and you just gradually kind of choke them out. This is the map I think about for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. I'm not sure if HeroMarine has employed that strategy, but it is the topography of the map certainly lends itself for it. Yeah. So we'll see if he's willing to do that. I'm not sure what Harstem has prepared, but I'm sure he has something prepared.
Yeah, for now, just going to be poking forward, getting some basic scouting information, confirming there's a command center coming up, and seeing how many gases his opponent has. But it's worth noting the last game, Harstem did a pretty good job of denying the Reaper a scout on the kind of robo opening. And you're talking about, hey, we're hoping that Harstem's going to be able to pull some specialized build for whatever HeroMarine throws out. So the more he can deny scouting information for HeroMarine just throughout this series, I think the more chances he has to try and capitalize on kind of fooling HeroMarine here.
Yeah, I think you made a very solid point as well on that front, though, which is that Harstem tends to play normal-ish, right? Like he doesn't do crazy builds usually. It's more like he picks the right macro build or the right harassment build for what his opponent tends to do. And Terran players in general are some of the most iterative people. I feel like they just go for the same build or the same style pretty often. I feel like I'm not sure if HeroMarine falls into that category, but I think so. So
I think when I think of HeroMarine, I don't really think of the player who's like, you know, a Euthermal. It's like, okay, he's trying to keep that air of like unpredictability. He's mixing things in here and there. HeroMarine, I think of just like raw, solid macro power and stuff. So I'm definitely with you on that.
Yeah, that's what I feel as well. So we'll see what he's able to accomplish here as he moves on. What's this for, Ravi? I have no idea.
Well, we got the Marines moving out. I think that he's trying. So I think the idea is if there's the Adept Scout, by the way, we do have a Dark Shrine stuff coming up, but like if there's an Adept Scout, yeah, because normally you're trying to send the Shade at the base of the ramp so you can get as far in as possible. So if you try and intercept the Adept before it gets that far out, either they don't notice in time because they're not used to encountering Marines and you lose the Adept, or you have to send out the Shade earlier and you don't really get as far as you want.
That makes perfect sense. Ooh, Dark Shrine though.
Yeah, the Dark Shrine. So it's going to be that DT drop over here from Harstem. And remember, with this opening from HeroMarine, he doesn't get a Reaper. He went straight into Marines. He's getting up the tanks as well. I believe he got the Tech Lab already up on that factory.
He's doing that push you were just talking about. 2 SCVs being pulled as well. I think Harstem has researched this then, because I mean, the DT really falls out of favor against the Reaper Scouts potentially. Now the SCVs pull back as the Adept Shade, as the Adept identifies this coming though.
So the big thing here is you want to keep an eye on the energy on that natural command center. It's about to get 50 energy. Does he throw down the Mule, or is he going to save energy for the scan? Because if he throws down the Mule right now before the first DT reveals itself, he could actually just insta-lose his tanks and probably insta-lose this kind of push. Which is heavily committed.
Indeed. Now the first DT will get pushed back, but the War Prism is across the map, so there will be DTs drop and forcing scans onto the side of HeroMarine as well.
But remember that 2 of the gateways are at the front over here. Yeah, Mortal is going to be able to actually snipe off that Seachank. Okay, so it looks like Harstem's doing a great job holding at the front. While the DTs just absolutely run train on that natural expansion in the main base.
Yeah, and eBay having to be started, and there's a next scan, but the War Prism should still be around, right? There's probably another DT being warped in as we speak. There he is.
This is a very committed attack here from HeroMarine. This is not one of those, oh, I'll do this little pressure and I'll just casually, you know, macro up behind. No, this is an attack that you really, really have to get something done with. HeroMarine did not get anything done with this.
Yeah, at the same time, very good presence of mind to send that Liberator in. To shift-click it forward into the main of Harstem. So HeroMarine having both players really scrambling, a very scrappy game. I'm liking this.
Yeah, I'm heavily favoring right now Harstem though. You look at the worker supply, it's 28 to 46. Harstem has a 3rd base on the way, and HeroMarine is not actually mining half the time. He just keeps sending his workers back and forth between these bases, trying to dodge out of the DTs.
Yeah, and the turrets getting cancelled both in the main and the natural, so fantastic job there by Harstem. And HeroMarine will finally be able to secure his main base, but he will require another scan to clear the natural. And then within that scan, he has to start building a turret so that it finishes this time around. Harstem well on top of the turret, so HeroMarine really needs to look for that.
Yeah, and Cats, think about not just the direct damage. Yeah, GG gets called, Harstem taking that 2nd game. But think not just about like the immediate damage being done to the workers and stuff. Stim, combat shields, medevac, like all of these things are delayed, not just because Harstem is obviously doing some like damage to the economy, but HeroMarine just straight up just doesn't have the time or the opportunity to start up a lot of this stuff. So even if HeroMarine doesn't like take a little bit extra damage there and tap out at that moment, I do think he was just going to be so far behind that Harstem could follow up and kill him.
Yeah, his natural was going to get denied or delayed further. One thing that he had going for him, I guess, is that Harstem was actually pulling the Warp Prism. I'm not sure why. I think he could have warped in an extra DT and see if he can continue to delay the natural, but HeroMarine identifies that he's too far behind, and now there's a good chance, Ravi, that he's tilted as well.
Yeah, yeah, I know you were talking about that. That is losing to DTs. That is like one of the most classic ways to not feel so good about your StarCraft gameplay.
You would know.
I would, as someone who makes a lot of DTs, that I do see it happen a lot. But I think he still showed really, really strong play for the most part in that first game. If he can just pull it back and not really think too much about just that Cyberforce game, I think he can still have a strong mentality. You think about the build again he was doing.
I mean, of course, yeah.
It's one of those builds that it's like, okay, Cyberforce, it's a strong map for that kind of tank marine push. He kind of got a little bit hard countered there, and Harstem did a good job of controlling everything. It's like, you really are not supposed to have a lot to deal with DTs in 3 different locations when you're on a 2-base situation. You have no engineering base.
Pushing,
you're
right?
trying to push. It's like, you're not expected to do very well there.
Yeah,
I think HeroMarine can write it off a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the build order from Harstem was perfectly chosen for this occasion, as there's no Reaper Scout, then there's the push, which, you know, you can stop with 1 DT or 2.
Yeah.
And then if not, then it's checkmate on the other end, right? So
yeah,
just very well done by him.
Yeah, there's always different ways you can lose in a game of StarCraft, right? There's the, oh, this is like my standard build, I do this all the time. And when that gets crushed by like someone such as Cyril, you kind of lose hope. You're like, well, that was my bread and butter, and I got demolished. So right. Where do I go from here? That last game, that's like I'm going to throw this out there. This is a good map for it. Nope, didn't work. Okay, let's move on. So I'm hoping that that's the mentality HeroMarine has.
Yeah, I mean, he has to have some of that to be as consistent of a player as he is, right?
Absolutely,
he has to be able to recover. Then again, Harstem is a tricky player, a player that has studied him, and we'll see if he can do something. Also one of my favorite people in the entire scene.
Yeah, very, very fun guy. Kind of interesting pylon placement over here, because I'm used to either seeing pylons in one of 2 places. It's either over by the ramp, just kind of, I mean, I think that one's a little bit more rare, but occasionally maybe it's like...
he wants to block the Reaper, yeah? Maybe with a Cybercore?
Yeah, I guess I'm used to seeing, because I think you can wall that off with a single pylon. Maybe I'm going crazy.
No, I think you need a fatter building.
Oh, you need a gateway?
I'm not 100%.
Okay.
I'm not a pro DOS, but I think you need a... I think you will probably drop a Cybercore or a gateway there.
That's
or
fair.
Is the Cybercore enough? I'm not sure.
You know, I really did think it was just a single pylon.
Really?
But
maybe
you know, I'm also a cannon rusher, so if they made a Reaper versus me, they probably already lost.
Nice.
So... all right, either way, he's going to be, of course, getting up the rest of his stuff, and Pylon is in position to help build a gateway or something there if he needs it, but for now, not going to worry too much about it. Sends that probe across the map, gets some basic scouting information, and I want to note, game number 1, I talked about this, Harstem denies the Reaper Scout. Game number 2, HeroMarine doesn't go for any Scout, because he's going for that big pressure play, and completely skips the Reaper. Game 3, he goes to the Reaper Scout. I think if he does not get a good scout with this Reaper, and this goes, of course, we know it's going to go to a game 4 because it's tied 1-1. I think that is where I think HeroMarine will start feeling a bit of frustration, right? Because a Terran player in this day and age, if you've been following Twitter, Paulo, scouting is one of the main complaints that Terran players have had versus Protoss lately.
Yeah, especially on the new maps. There is the Reaper path here, but it is being blocked by that Cybercore now, so the Cybercore is indeed enough. As we will trust Harstem knows better here.
Yep.
So, yeah, and this probe is looking pretty fishy.
The Reaper is not going to be able to catch it for now. The probe's starting to make its way further up north, though. Maybe just looking for a second scout.
Yeah, Robo is being placed at the main, so I'm not sure that this is going to be too fishy.
Too cheeky or anything, yeah. Yep. Just the Robo for now, like you said. And it's going to be a Depth Stalker as well. So the Reaper, having spent so much time looking around the map, and is still actually looking around, not really bothering to get a scout. So it seems like HeroMarine's answer here is just saying, I don't really care what you're doing. I'm just going to do standard, tried and true. And by taking a really fast 3rd CC, I'm going to overpower you.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, I think that is his bread and butter. So we'll see if he's able to do just that. The perfume that I'm wearing today, by the way, Ravi, was a gift from Harstem.
Really? What? Do you know what it's called?
Yeah, it's a Calvin Klein Man.
Calvin Klein is just called Man?
Man is the name of the perfume.
M-A-N. Man.
M-A-N, yeah.
I guess that is the manliest perfume you could possibly think of.
I guess, yeah. There's a
Is
lot
it
of people.
perfume or a cologne?
Perfume. A lot of people visit me over the years. Very few bring gifts. Harstem is one of them.
Harstem is such a little sweetheart.
Yeah. Harstem and the Koreans bring gifts.
Aw. Really quick note, the Hellions, of course, trying to get the run-by swinging over there. The Reaper joins the fray because they try and grenade the Stalker out of position. But Harstem is doing what a good Protoss player does these days, and he just kind of rebuilds a pylon behind that wall, making sure that you can't really sneak those Hellions in and get any scouting information or damage done. So, units get pushed back, and so far, HeroMarine, he's buying himself a little bit of space, but that Warp Prism is ready.
Cool, by
Wait
the way,
a second, how many gateways just finished? Okay, just two.
That is the coolest looking Warp Prism. Can't even hate it.
That is the new one available through the war chest. If you guys are interested, go pick it up. Hey, Cats, I'm a little worried for HeroMarine right now.
Yes, you should be, Ravi. This is pretty scary, and with the Warp Prism as well, he can easily micro against both the Cyclone and the Mine.
The Widowmine already got picked off, actually, so now it's just the Cyclone to worry about.
Sloppy.
Okay, Stalkers doing their best to stay alive. The Hellion and the Reaper rejoin the Natural while they find an opportunity to, but this is really, really scary. Remember, he has a third CC behind this really quickly, but losing the Cyclone, losing the Hellions over here, he might just die. He might not have time to use that third CC.
Yeah, I mean, this is just about the perfect strategy for Harstem to choose once again. As you know, there is Cyclones. They don't do much against the Warp Prism. There's Widowmines. They don't do much against the Warp Prism. Now the tanks are going to help considerably here as he finally manages to siege one onto the low ground.
Ooh, 4 Zealots being warped. I actually really like this considering how many SCVs keep getting pulled.
He puts one in front. Beautiful.
Oh.
So tanking all the shots with one. HeroMarine very good at focus firing here on the Stalkers, though.
Yeah, making sure that it's not the Zealots that take that those early shots. The SCVs going up against the Zealots is not going to be a fun fight, so they end up retreating on out of there. The Natural expansion is going to be lifted off. Harstem adding on a Robo Bay, adding on a Twilight Council, adding on a Forge. He's getting ready for the transition. He's remaking some of the, or just making some more workers over here. And he has made this attack so successful off of just 3 gateways.
Yes, absolutely. Just, again, a perfectly chosen strategy by Harstem, who's going to continue to poke and delay the natural base of HeroMarine as he drops his third. So I love what you said there, because he's being very greedy behind this as far as his transitioning.
God, I have to say, it's not very often that you get to hear the phrase or the term splits around Protoss players, but Harstem doing a fantastic job splitting up all of his Stalkers so that none of them were taking splash damage from the Siege Tank shots there.
Yeah, making work with very little here.
Okay, so where do we leave off from here, Cats? Because we do have a 3cc build from HeroMarine, and 3cc is sort of that magical thing that Terran players always like to talk about, how it can make comebacks happen and make dreams become a reality. But is this one of those situations, do you think?
I don't think so. I think this is an excellent position for Harstem to be in, because he's done a great job. He also shows the potential for the Warp Prism to poke back in, so HeroMarine is gotta be pretty hesitant to move out. He has 2 tanks that he probably feels like should be sieged, and he doesn't really know what the transition for Harstem is, if there is one at all, right? Harstem could have just as easily added a bunch of gateways and tried to go for an attack, and I think that HeroMarine was accounting for that. So I think that this transition is fantastic for Harstem, and he's gonna be, you know, able to get away with all of it.
Yeah. That 3 gateway attack, by the way, with a Warp Prism and just the Stalkers, I have to say, that's not exactly like an incredibly normalized sort of thing. I mean, maybe you see it here and there, but I think that is one of those sort of Harstem specials where he says, hey, HeroMarine likes to go for these kind of 3cc builds. This is how I'm going to punish him. And you were talking about this so often in the previous games. Harstem is so good at picking out these builds.
Yeah, really. I mean, the key factor for me was the unit choices from HeroMarine on this particular map. They just didn't lend themselves to deal with Stalkers and the Warp Prism in particular.
Yeah.
And we saw the same exact thing happen with the DTs and even with the Observers on game 1.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's been ready for everything. It's just like the game 1 was a little bit of I don't want to say bad luck, but just being better than Harstem could prepare for, I guess. But the last 2 games, they've been going pretty well for Mr. Lips.
Yeah, Big Gabe had 3 Protoss players in his group stage. Then he had to play a Protoss player, GSL versus the world. He's been busy traveling around, living the programmer life. Kevin DeConing, good old Harstem, just sitting at home and saying, I'm watching everything. I see everything.
Yes,
Came prepared. He did his homework today.
He sure did, and I thought if he won one of those 2 games, that this favored him in terms of mentality as well. So I'm looking for Harstem to take this serious now at this point. It is 1-1, but he certainly has an edge here, in spite of the supplies being very close.
Yeah, the supplies, of course, do eventually even up, but that is partially because Harstem stopped that worker production. He's adding on his big gateway flood, and he's getting the finalized upgrades here for probably what's going to be a really, really big push of those Colossus. At least that's, I have to imagine that's where it's going to lead into.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always like to say StarCraft is played mainly on 3 fronts, and the tech front is where Harstem has taken most of his advantages to try to capitalize on. So he added all those, all those upgrades. He's probably waiting for them to kick in. He has Charge, he has Blink, he has a Templar. Oh,
whoa!
Nasty.
Where do those stalkers come from?
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, it gets 2 of the medevacs, but half of that second medevac does unload, so he's getting some damage done over here. Shield battery finishes up and keeps that cannon alive a little bit longer. Target down the pylons is kind of okay, but yeah, he does end up getting the robo. And this is getting some decent damage done, but he lost a lot of army in the process.
And Harstem anticipating also that HeroMarine would try for a retreat. So yeah, he does kill the robo like you said, but I don't think that's enough, and there's already 3 Colossus out. So Harstem might just be content not to remake it and just lean heavier on his push.
Yep. And now all the upgrades are finishing up here for Harstem. Maybe he's going to wait around for +2 weapons before really making the full push out here. But yeah, take that 4th base, leave like 2 stalkers on either side of that 1 remaining medevac, and he should be good to go for a big attack.
Yeah, he's remaking the robo, but it will not come into play for this particular attack. I think it's just insurance should this fail. I don't think it will, though. 14 extra army supply for Harstem. And this is going to be a difficult hold on HeroMarine's 3rd.
War Prism also heading into the main base during all this. He's going to try and split up HeroMarine a little bit, but it is worth noting that he is not going to have reinforcements for this fight then, because it's not only the robo that's not reinforcing.
Yeah, the War Prism does get taken down, but Harstem also identifies that there's some army here. He will not look to capitalize, however, as there is not just tanks, but also the CC blocking a lot of the pathing onto HeroMarine's next fortified position, I suppose.
Yeah. And because that War Prism got taken out in the main base and he didn't have the army, he wasn't going to have any reinforcements. So I do think that pulling back was maybe a little bit of wiser of a decision. So I do like that. Just he could have possibly made that work and he could have possibly won right there. But why take the risk?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's getting a little bit closer. If HeroMarine pushes that back, he did make that 4th CC that Harstem is now aware of. So this is getting a little bit worrisome. Should Harstem not accomplish anything here? I'm not saying it was an easy push to make either, but there were, there were some units there. That CC though, it's so scary to push into tanks when there's so much of a blockage in front.
Yeah. Well, the 4th orbital, they're not going for the planetary fortress like he opted to go for in the first game. So HeroMarine feels like that 4th base is maybe a more defendable position or something. It is a very wide open area though, and it seems like Harstem's already moving toward that location. HeroMarine has his units in position. Looks like the Archons and the Stalker is going to be leading the charge. The Zealots coming in from the back, and there are those Storms before that Ghost upgrade finishes. There are a few Ghosts. They get some EMPs off. I don't know if Harstem has enough to continue pushing in here, though.
That Storm was a little bit of a waste there by Harstem. And luckily for him, he doesn't have any remaining, so that's going to be the end of his attack for now, at least until he regathers some energy. I think he could have pushed the issue. I think he could have at least forced a lift off, maybe killed a bunch of SCVs there. But that Storm, that last Storm, was a little bit too hasty. If he had another Storm behind it, I'm fine with it. But because it was his last, it made it so that HeroMarine could just retreat and then, retake this positioning.
Yeah, I really like that he's finally adding in that second robo, because I think the other thing was not having a War Prism during that fight meant the slower reinforcements. Maybe that could have turned the tide of allowing him to finally push in there, but like you were saying, he got close but not quite. Now there's bunkers set up over here, a really smart decision from HeroMarine.
Yeah, I think this is a great play from him. And yeah, like he was out of Storm, but also HeroMarine was out of EMPs. Maybe Harstem thought maybe there's another Ghost or something like that. I really wish he hadn't used that Storm on the 3rd base, however, of HeroMarine. There's a little bit of a run-by going on right now, I believe.
getting some nice damage done. Picking off a few SCVs, but also forcing a lot of the army to this location while the War Prison tries to run into the main. Getting caught by the missile turret and also some Vikings. Not going to happen, though. HeroMarine is much more prepared this game.
Yeah, certainly. Harstem trying to find a different angle as he identified that there was 2 missile turrets at the north. So he thinks he's just going to have to deal with the one down south, but then the Vikings in great position from HeroMarine.
Ooh, looking for the snipe on those High Templars.
Hiding in the bushes, that one.
Gets a feedback on one of the ghosts before the High Templar ends up going down. I think there are still a decent number of those ghosts with the EMPs still left over. And HeroMarine is finally going to be the one that's getting on the offensive. He's looking for an opportunity to snipe off maybe that third base on the north side. Then maybe if he doesn't find that opportunity, he'll go toward the fourth base. But Harstem is keeping an eye on that army.
Yeah, and this is getting pretty scary. Nice sellout Rambice once again. But HeroMarine's reinforcements are likely in position to deal with it for the most part. Now there's so many ghosts, and I do love the idea of the disruptors here from Harstem, as ghosts can outstim and run away very easily.
Yeah, this really does become, for both of these players, a very difficult army to control. Harstem is going to be trying to control disruptors, using his Colossus effectively against those Vikings. So he has to use the Stalkers to try and target down the Vikings, and he's going to be trying to control High Templars and Storm. HeroMarine is also going to have his hands full with all the different splash damage units, so lobbing things at him. This is really, I think, going to come down to a game of control with this army.
Oh, and Harstem was really looking for those ghosts there. See, like the second storm there, completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
A little bit of a whiff, but it's scary, right? With this much EMP around, you kind of want to keep your energy down, I guess.
Ooh, nice revelation. He does trade
nice.
the Oracle for it, but this is really going to help out in making sure he doesn't just take a bad fight in the early stages of this next little couple of minutes.
Yeah, big stim from Big Gabe, and that disruptor a little bit hopeful.
He's firing down the robo. Oh my god, those DTs! There's DTs on the south side. There's 3 or 4 of them with +3 weapons.
Very nice.
They are massacring this Bioforce, and HeroMarine just doesn't seem to notice until now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult thing to notice, and he had to feel like he's in control. And like you said, there's so much going on. There's so much to control for both players. And Harstem warping in those DTs in the back, right? Likely where HeroMarine's screen isn't even looking you only have so much screen, and a lot of the time you want to look forward and position your screen forward because that's where the units are going to be coming from. So very well done by Harstem there.
Now he's going to be able to morph a lot of those DTs into Archons, expecting that there's going to be scans and missile turrets for this next attack. But Harstem is also taking that top right-hand base. HeroMarine is looking to try and establish a new one himself, but this is where the Liberator production has really gone ham behind everything. 6 or 5 Liberators being produced at a time. I mean, one more round of those Liberators is going to have a total of 10, and that is more than enough to really set the fear into a Protoss.
Yeah, a lot of robos have been added for Harstem at this point. So I'm curious to see what he's going to be producing from those. 2 more at the front, 1 at the natural, so a total of 3, I believe.
Yeah, kind of interesting. We do have the Stargate done, and of course we saw that Oracle earlier on, but no Fleet Beacon or anything, which is usually, if you are expecting that Liberator transition soon, you are going to start adding on that Fleet Beacon for the Tempest. But maybe Harstem has different plans to end the game earlier or deal with those Tempests in a different way.
He's not really using those robos for anything, so I'm confused as to why he added them. Oh, nice pickups by HeroMarine here as he identifies them with a scan. And Harstem leaving a few units a little bit carelessly there.
Yeah, I think the extra robos may have just been because one of his robos got sniped, and maybe he lost track of his other robo or something, but he was just saying, okay, I want to have the robos ready so I can make the 3 Colossus at a time.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Looking to replace them perhaps, but I mean, I don't like to see tech sitting idly, but I guess we're getting to a stage in the game where potential tech switches are going to be important as well.
Yeah. The Zealot DT run by does not really accomplish too much more than sniping off the missile turret, or sorry, the bunker. The missile turret does detect those DTs and Liberator cleans up. Really tough game here for both these players. Again, it's going to come down to those big army fights who can manage them a little bit better.
Big EMPs, and HeroMarine has done a fantastic job of pulling this game back into his favor. Very nice snipe there by Harstem.
Yeah, sniping off another one of those Liberators. Keeping that Liberator count low is pretty important. 3 more Colossus being produced at a time, so this is going to be just really heavily investing more and more into those Colossus. The Viking count, it's actually not looking crazy healthy anymore. It's only down to 7. I think he's just sniped off another one of those. but these Liberators are really causing problems.
They really are, and he's going to continue to leap forward, so it's going to force an engagement out of Harstem, who has been avoiding these engagements for a long time. Very nice Storm, however, but the Colossus unfortunately spawns onto the army of HeroMarine.
The EMP on almost every single one of the High Templars. No more Storms are going to be saving Harstem for a little bit. But this army is just getting massacred. Harstem loses nearly everything. And HeroMarine pulls the game back 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, he took some risks there economically, dropping that 4th base. I liked Harstem's strategy choice. I liked his transition into heavier tech. I liked a lot of what he had to say, but then the attack, it just didn't pan out in his favor. He just didn't go for it. The War Prism, that was very nice by Big Gabe. If that War Prism ends up in the main, if the turrets, and the turret left it with like no HP, and then the Vikings sniped it with one last shot. Yeah. All right, if that doesn't happen, then I think we have Harstem coming ahead out of that attack that he was planning, but instead he's forced to retreat, and Big Gabe gets the economy working himself. So
yeah, absolutely.
Back, very well done.
I do feel like we saw a lot of the at least mild adaptations there from HeroMarine, just to say like Harstem is going so ham with these Zealot run bys from that game number 1, and even trying a little bit of that with the game number 2 with the War Prism and stuff. So just getting all those missile turrets set up, always having those bunkers and the missile turrets set up inside the mineral line, he was very ready for all of the run-by attempts and everything. Harstem got not a whole lot done with almost any of them.
So yeah, I think that's to the credit of HeroMarine indeed. He did a great job adapting to the playstyle of Harstem, essentially, to his strengths. Yeah. So that's going to put him up 2-1. And, you know, if you're Harstem, you've picked the 3 right builds so far, and it hasn't gone well twice. So
yeah, a little bit
tough.
Yeah, it's been able to get those earlier mid-game leads. But ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into the next game, I want to remind you that, of course, we have been watching and seeing all of these games played with a bunch of these fantastic war chest skins, like this one, the good old Marine skin. What do you think of this Marine skin, Paulo?
I really like it. I'm not sure if it's ready to rave or laser tag, but I love it.
Did you play a lot of laser tag?
Yeah, I did.
Growing up as a kid?
Growing up as a kid, indeed. I was pretty good at it.
When did you stop playing laser tag?
When the kid parties stopped being hosted at the laser tag place.
You didn't host them yourself?
No, I just went to them. Yeah. Yeah, my mom couldn't rent an entire laser tag place.
You didn't have to rent the entire place, right? It's just everyone.
I guess you're right. No. Birthday parties.
No, but for my birthday parties and stuff, there would just be a bunch of randos there, and we just team up on them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like birthday parties in Peru, you kind of have to invite everyone in your class.
Ooh.
My class is like 40 people, like per classroom.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's 200. It was 200 per class and 40 per classroom. It was a big classroom.
Yeah,
teachers rotate around.
That's tough, man. If you have to invite everyone. What if you don't get along with some of the people in your class?
Then it's weird, you know. Then you're shunned, and then you know.
So it'd be like 29 people, or
you don't have to invite everyone, you know. But
39 people got invited, and then one guy.
Everyone finds out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of.
Oh man, that's awkward.
It's kind of awkward. Yeah.
That's tough. I don't think that's how most of the birthday parties I knew happened in the United States.
Peru is a special place as far as like people interaction. People are very warm and friendly, and
it reminds me of like Indian weddings, because for those who don't know, in India, like over here, you always hear, and like you see in the movies and stuff, it's like, oh, someone cancels last second on the wedding, or someone shows up with a +1, right, and the bride gets really upset. That's what it's like over here. In India, it's like the weddings are just open to the public. Cool. So you can just walk in, you can just go in, eat a bunch of food, walk out. Yeah, it's totally normal.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a lot of spending for whoever's hosting it.
That's why I'm not getting married in India, man.
Yeah, don't do it.
All right, so we're moving into game number 4. HeroMarine currently sitting up 2-1. Remember, this is a best-of-5, and it's not just making the round of 4 that's on the line. It is the fact that the top 4 finishers for WCS Challenger Season 3 get flown out to WCS Fall. That's over in Montreal. They get their flight paid for. They get their hotel. They get seeded into Group Stage 3. There is a big benefit for being able to win this best-of-5 right here versus coming so close and then dropping out.
Yes, indeed. We'll see if HeroMarine is able to do it and close it out over here, or if Harstem will fight back.
Very quick robo here from Harstem. I want to note that I think that robo was maybe when the Adept was only at like 25% done. So the Reaper is going to have no problem coming in here and scouting, because guess what? There's no units out just yet for Harstem. So
yeah, maybe this time Harstem anticipating again not a Reaper scout, maybe another tank push or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of funny too, because Harstem did hide that probe in the bottom left-hand side again, but this time Reaper didn't really spend a whole lot of time scouting around for proxy locations and stuff. Just went straight beeline over to Harstem's base.
Yeah, and the row was
nice
placed
grenade.
in the most obvious spot as well, right? Like the spot that the Reaper would see right away.
Yeah.
So a little bit rough, though. HeroMarine is still going for the mine drop regardless, and Harstem is producing observers. So it seems like still Harstem will have kind of the upper edge as far as builders are concerned, right? In spite of the scout from HeroMarine, he's committing to his bread and butter, maybe what he's practiced on this map.
Okay, so the Reaper's going to pop back in over here. He doesn't dive any further in. But I do wonder if maybe just seeing the really fast robo, there are those one-gate robo, very quick robo bay. You were talking about disruptor drops and stuff, or really fast Colossus plays. I wonder if HeroMarine has that on his mind as a potential option. But it really does seem like a little bit of a just slower, gradual move forward to probably eventually a robotic space. But for now, it's just about the fast observers. So
yeah, and that lines up perfectly as well with the timing of the robo that you mentioned earlier, right? Like if you're going to be pumping a lot of observers, those are not very expensive units, so you can probably afford it even if you drop the faster robo. And he kind of wants this coverage for the Widow Mines in particular, so we'll see if he's able to spot it.
The Reaper pops up to the high ground, sees that third base, so HeroMarine's going to have a pretty good idea of saying, okay, I know that there's not some funky 2-base all-in. I know I'm not going to deal with that 3-gate Warp Prism Stalker pressure that you put on Cyber Forest. Or no, not Cyber Forest. It was another map, right?
Sure.
Game number 2 or 3. But either way, HeroMarine's going to be in the know at least this time. And Observer is going to get scanned and picked off.
Yeah, almost misses a stutter step there, HeroMarine, for a second. And this guy was looking for, I guess, a Warp Prism, the mine, right? Or I don't think there could be an Oracle coming up, right? There was a really quick robo, so maybe he did have some sort of drop or pressure in mind.
Yeah. Well, the Widow Mine does actually go off, so the Observer definitely should have spotted it out. Harstem should feel pretty good about leaving an Observer somewhere back at home just to help deal with those Widow Mines later on. But, of course, he's got that Twilight Council finished up. He's adding on Charge. He's adding on his Gateways. He's getting up his double Forge upgrades. So, no Robo Bay on the way. He is all about just pumping out upgrades and getting up a strong base army.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's mining with 2 on each gas whilst mining, distant mining the third for as long as he did. Because, you know, that, like, yes, there's a little bit of a drop-off from 2 to 3 on gas, but there's a huge drop-off from, you know, mining your minerals next to a nexus to mining your minerals to back to a different nexus. So.
Yeah, the long-distance mining is very, very intense in terms of the drop-off there. Looks like a pretty quick Temple Archives there. This is a little bit faster than I'm used to seeing if we're going to go for like the really quick double Forge upgrades and really powering out a big Gateway army. Now, that does scare me a little bit because HeroMarine is starting to build up a pretty scary looking army. After the next set of Medivacs comes out, or maybe even just around now, he may feel comfortable moving out with 1-1 finishing up in combat shields and putting on some pressure. And that's going to be before things like Storm are going to be done.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be difficult for Harstem to deal with, but it looks like the Medivac is going to fly over the Observer of Harstem, so he should be ready with units in position. And this Warp Prism in a beautiful position as well to potentially delay or deny. Oh, I'm surprised.
The Reaper's still alive. Well, not for much longer, but... Okay, Harstem sees how late that third CC is, and that should set off some alarm bells. You should definitely know, okay, I need to just power out units right now. I need to get ready for the defense.
Yeah, this Viking looking for the Warp Prism. It might think that it's covered. Oh, this is great for Harstem.
Yeah, that's over in HeroMarine side of the map, but the Widow Mine drop comes into the natural, and we're going to see that these probes Good split over there.
Not bad at all.
5 workers go down at the same time. It looks like Harstem is able to snipe off 2 workers of his own with that Warp Prism. The Warp Prism also taking some damage, but he's pushing HeroMarine further and further back. The Warp Prism gets sniped off after he tries to recall back home. He doesn't get the recall off. He loses the Warp Prism, but he is defending really, really well.
Yeah, action everywhere. That was 4 fronts basically in the span over the span of like 5 seconds that were.
Shout out to Awesome Sauce for keeping up with it.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, this is pretty crazy. I think that Harstem pulls a little bit ahead from all that as he defends, you know, most fronts, whereas HeroMarine just defends the War Prism with no further investment.
I like the idea that an entire army loads up, and I just imagine like one naked guy like streaking past the army, and the army just double takes and is like, wait a second, what was that? And then you just go chasing off after him.
Yeah.
That was that zealot. He was the streaker that just pulled all of the bodyguards and the entire army force away. All right, 4 more gateways being added on. Finally, it seems like Harstem feels like, you know what? I defended pretty well. I took out a good chunk of the army. I think I have time to get up Storm, so there it's going to be going.
Also denied that third CC that's now flying onto the third, and I'm surprised HeroMarine didn't actually morph the CC before flying it. That's a little bit inefficient as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah,
you
know, that is a really common thing I've found, and that always bugs me. And the reason why I think that Katz is saying that is because if you morph it beforehand, you're building up energy, and you'll get more of those mules, right? Versus if you land it and then morph in the orbital, there was all that time it was just a command center. You never had the energy building.
Yeah, but I see now the reason Big Gabe was doing it is because he already has saturation for his third, so the loss of minerals would have actually been greater if he morphed it, as opposed to mining fully if you landed there.
Now I want to see the math on with how many SCVs is it worth it to immediately land the command center versus morphing into an orbital first.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an exact science, of course, because there's value to be gained from scan or potentially supply drops, which no one uses. But yeah, you could get an approximation as far as just like on the mule front.
Okay, so the War Prism did barely manage to survive. It was sitting very low on hit points, and Storm just finished up. So Harstem is looking like he wants to start putting some pressure on, poking forward. HeroMarine is looking for these free pickoffs over here, though. I like the addition of these sentries. We haven't really seen a lot of the sentries from Harstem in these games, but those Guardian Shields, I mean, it's effectively just adding a +2 armor upgrade for all of your units here against a Terran.
Yes, indeed. Harstem is actually very good at force fields. Not just that, you know, I don't mean just like spacing them properly or positioning, but he is very good at placing them in locations and then taking advantage of them more so than I think most Protoss players I've seen. So I am also kind of puzzled as to why we haven't seen more of those.
Yeah, it might just be partially also a control thing, where if you're controlling the High Templars and also the sentries.
Yeah, it's a gas thing too. It's but still.
But still, yeah. Well, EMP is not really coming off right now.
Oh, nice feedback.
Yeah. Getting some of those ghosts pushed back. The Zealots getting tiny bits of SCV harassment done. Ooh, Storm's zoning out a lot of this army.
Yeah, that War Prism was playing with fire with a fully energied High Templar, I suppose. There is no more. Oh, there's a couple EMPs now popping in.
Harstem really having a hard time pushing up that ramp, though. So I think he's going to have to reconsider and maybe poke up the natural and just kind of move back and forth. He's trying to defend that Archon that's morphing in. It's almost finished. It does get sniped off before it can finish, though. And HeroMarine looks like he's feeling confident. He's got a lot of army over here. He's gotten off a ton of these EMPs on these High Templars now and the Archon.
Oh, never mind. He's just not looking at the screen at the moment as he runs back. And HeroMarine, so smart, actually ignoring the Templar and going for the units that he may not get otherwise. And then, you know, he knows he's going to get the Templar at the end.
Yeah.
So very cool from him.
Gets the energy units of both the High Templars and also the Sentry, and now we end up seeing that multiple EMPs thrown off on those High Templars.
Rough.
Even the Observer's revealed, by the way, from the EMPs, so if you're wondering why that's not cloaked right now. We're starting to see the HeroMarine. He is starting to snowball. The Zealots may be what he needs to turn this around. The EMP actually hits the Zealots and not the Ghosts. That's actually really, really well-placed EMPs there from HeroMarine, and that might just be exactly what he needs to start turning this into a big old W.
Yeah, this well could be it, as the fourth of Harstem has been taken out at this point, or will be anyway. So Yeah, I'm not sure what he can do from here. I mean, HeroMarine is situating his fourth at the same time. Upgrades have been fantastic for Gabe throughout the entire series, just keeping up with the Protoss very well.
Up about 50 supply. Harstem is warping in a desperation round of these Zealots, and they're going to try and go into the meat grinder here, but HeroMarine, Big Gabe, looks like he's probably going to be coming out on top of this series 3-1, as there's the GG. HeroMarine is your first semifinalist.
Yeah, I think what most people would expect.
Second semifinalist, sorry.
Second, indeed. But yeah, well played by both players. I really liked what Harstem brought to the table. I think that the bread and butter of HeroMarine now is that new Ghost upgrade and the EMP. He did so much work throughout the entire series with that, so be on the lookout for it.
He looked very strong with that Ghost EMP upgrade. And I mean, you can even see just visually, you can see how much bigger the radius kind of feels with how quickly he was able to get a lot of those EMPs off and how many of those High Templars or Zealots he was able to hit with them. So
yeah, and even just the threat, it's not like how effective he was at EMPing even. It's the fact that Harstem was having to preemptively use a lot of his Storm, sending High Templars in front, because the EMP now probably outranges the Storm by a fair bit, right? If you do it on the edge of the radius. So he was kind of zoning out with Storms, and I have to wonder, once that upgrade comes in, should Protoss players even continue to go Storm at this point? It sounds
or
like
do you start mixing in the disruptors like you were saying
Perhaps,
before?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult to propose that you should replace High Templars by something else.
Just increase your APM by 50. Yeah, it's tough. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, that still does mean HeroMarine moves on, and we're gonna, of course, get to see more Protoss players playing out their PvTs later on. But for now, we're gonna be moving into some good old-fashioned Terran versus Zerg. Our next match is Raynor versus Sol. Following it up at Protoss versus Protoss. We'll see you guys in a little bit with more WCS.